How's it going, everyone? Carl here with another Tech2 Media review. I've had the pleasure of owning the all-new HTC One for about 3 weeks now, and overall it was a great experience. Now, last year HTC hit a home run with what arguably is the best device of 2013, the original HTC One, the M7. Now, has HTC taken a step further in an attempt to edge out its competitors? Design-wise, the industrial language is all but gone. It does look a little softer than last year's model with more curves, but it keeps the aluminum finish. In fact, this year HTC took the One even further. The plastic sides have been replaced with aluminum that curves over them, and about 90% of the all-new HTC One is constructed from metal. Compare that to last year's 70%, and you have a more solid phone overall. The HTC One has a 2.3 GHz Snapdragon 801 processor with the Adreno 300 GPU, 2 GB of RAM, and a 5 megapixel front-facing camera, a 4 megapixel ultra-pixel rear-facing duo camera, which I'll talk about in just a minute, and a gorgeous 5-inch 1080p display. The all-new One brings a welcome addition to the table. On the right-hand side, you now have a micro SD card slot that supports storage up to massive 128GB cards, and the inability to add external storage was one of the bigger drawbacks of the original one, and if 160GB of storage is not enough with your all-new HTC One, HTC even throws in 50GB of free Google Drive storage space for 2 years. Below that micro SD card slot, you have the volume rocker. In all honesty, I prefer last year's more recessed buttons, even though a lot of people might actually disagree with that. Now, looking at the top, you have the power button that doubles as an infrared blaster and a plastic insert to presumably let the One's antenna pick up wireless waves, as the wireless waves can't go through the metal. Now, the same complaint I have about the volume buttons apply here too. I'm not too fond about the extruding power button and am even more unhappy about the power button placement. Let's talk about the top of the device even more for just a second. I find the power button more accessible on the top left side of the phone. Unfortunately, it has now moved to the right side, so it's a little harder to hit. And HTC does make turning on the device a little bit easier with some gestures capable of waking the device. Double tapping the One when it's in a portrait position allows you to wake the device up without touching the power button. Swiping right when the screen is off unlocks you to blink feed, and swiping right brings you over to the widget screen. Swiping up wakes the device and skips the unlock screen so you're back into the app that you were using. And swiping down is supposed to enable voice commands, but that doesn't seem to be working on my unit. You also have quick access to the camera by bringing the One up in landscape mode and hitting the volume button. And one more thing before I move on, many reviewers are actually saying that the infrared blaster stretches across the top of the phone, but from my tests you can clearly see that the infrared blaster is still in the power button. Now, moving on, the left side of the device you have your nano SIM slot. And HTC has moved the headphone jack to the bottom of the device next to the micro USB charging port. Now, stretching across the front of the device, you have a beautiful 5-inch 1080p display, and when I say beautiful, I mean it looks gorgeous. Sure, at the time, the M7 had the highest pixel density of any phone in the market, even more than the M8 right now, but the device looks insanely crisp. As expected, outdoor visibility is pretty good, and the viewing angles of this device are fantastic. Still, it could use a little bit of work, but as is, it's pretty good. The display is protected by Gorilla Glass 3, and man does it stand up well to damage. The display easily stands its ground against a hammer and even a car. Oh, and if you manage to break it within the first 6 months of ownership, you are covered. The phone comes with the HTC Advantage, so you are covered for any screen damage within the first 6 months, and in addition to the screen repair service, HTC promises timely updates. One thing I'd like to comment on about the front of the device is the black bar at the bottom, the black chin. I understand a lot of people aren't happy with that, and it feels that there's a lot of wasted real estate. But you know what, I think there's a lot of components hiding down there. There's no room up here next to the boom sound speakers. So I mean, to just make everything fit, they had to put something there, a black bar. For me, I'm more concerned about the on-screen buttons. I'm all for moving forward with the Android language, but if we're adding more bezel to the device, then we might as well use it for something useful. Having capacitive buttons on the black bar would free up some screen real estate and would make me happy. We see the return of the stereo boom sound speakers. These speakers have been enhanced to be around 25% louder than the ones we saw on the M7. Quality-wise, these drivers sound phenomenal. There are more lows, more highs, more mids, and everything just sounds a lot louder and much richer. On the front, you have the LED notification hidden behind a speaker hole, and right next to that, you have a 5-megapixel shooter. On the back, you see something a little strange. Now you have 2 camera lenses on the back of the device. The lower one is a 4-megapixel ultra-pixel shooter, and above that, you have a second sensor that captures depth information. So, just so we're clear, the top sensor doesn't actually take photos, but measures relative distance. Let's talk more about the camera now. 2 is always better than 1, right? Not necessarily. The second sensor allows you to apply some pretty neat effects to photos taken using the Duo camera. Unfortunately, the shooter is plagued with the same issues that last year's model had. Photos look great when taken with lots of sunlight, and low-light photos taken by the One are unrivaled, and that is until you try to crop or zoom into the image. A 4-megapixel sensor lets you gather only so much data, so photos are generally not sharp. Don't get me wrong, the photos taken by the One are probably some of the best you can take and upload to Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, but if you intend to blow up the image or take zoomed photos, you're really out of luck. It's just grain and noise. But it definitely is an upgrade to the ultra-pixel shooter found on the M7. If you'd like to see my video comparison on that, click the first link in the description. It's not out right now, but as soon as it comes out, I'll tweet it, and it'll be the first link down below. Also, if you'd like to see full resolution photos taken with the all-new HTC One, visit the second link down below in the description. Back to the Duo camera for a minute. The depth sensor gives the HTC One some pretty cool features that aren't available on any smartphone on the market on a hardware level at the moment. Now, U-Focus allows you to add focus after taking a photo, and the end result is pretty neat. It is far from perfect, but it definitely adds a professional touch to some of your photos. The foregrounder option allows you to highlight a subject by applying some interesting effects to the background. For example, you can have the background sketched or have it in black and white while the subject is unchanged. There's also one really interesting effect, Dimension Plus. This effect is supposed to let you adjust the image's 3D space so it looks like you took the photo from a different angle. It's a pretty cool effect if it worked as it was intended. Now, I mean, some of the photos look fine with it, but the algorithm mostly warps your images when you change the angle. It looks extremely artificial. The all-new HTC One's camera app is more feature-filled than ever. Photos are separated from videos, and the HTC Zoe is still here, except this time it has an entire app dedicated to it. If you're not familiar with HTC Zoes, think of the outcome as Harry Potter-like moving pictures. One thing I would like to see improved with maybe a software update is the Zoe interface. Right now, you have to hold the Zoe button for less than 3 seconds to create a Zoe, and if you hold it longer, you capture a standard video. For one, it's very hard to tell when you reach that 3-second Zoe limit, and when you miss that 3-second mark, it pushes you into standard videos and things become unnecessarily complicated. I'd be happy if HTC included a timer right above the button or a dedicated Zoe capture button. You still get Sense's beautiful moving gallery, and you're able to see Zoes in videos without having to open them up. It's still one of the better looking galleries out there today. Now, the all-one is skinned with the sixth sense. Really, HTC is calling it the sixth sense. Sense has really matured with Sense 6. Everything looks better, and right now it is by far my favorite skin over vanilla Android. Everything just looks clean. Now, there are some small details that really enhance the experience. For example, when you open up a stock HTC app, the color of the notification bar changes according to the type of application that you have open. Blink feed is back, and it is now more customizable than ever. You can turn it off completely like you can with Sense 5.5, or you can skip the preloaded feeds and add your own news topics or your own favorite blogs through RSS compatibility. The music app also got a slight makeover with Sense 5.5, and Sense 6 builds on that change. Now, personally, I prefer the music app that came with Sense 5, and I prefer swiping to shuffle through the songs than swiping to see the cue or the visualizer. Other than that, I really have not many gripes with Sense 6. It's very light and modestly minimalistic. Sense actually brings many awesome features. The color scheme on the quick notifications panel is pretty cool, and one thing I want to talk about is the keyboard. Since this stock keyboard is fantastic, it has trace support, which is pretty much swipe, and the autocorrect is the best I've seen on any stock keyboard to date. Now, it's not going to make me switch from SwiftKey, but I am very happy to see improvements and attention being paid to just the stock keyboard. Sense 6 is also very light on battery life. Now, it's either that or the all-new HTC One handles battery life very, very well. I'm able to almost get through a full day with heavy use on a single charge. With the 2600 mAh battery, I get about 2 hours more than what I would get on the M7, the original one. Now that's definitely an improvement. Moving on to call quality, since in the end this is a phone, call sounded fantastic both ways. In loud environments, I had no problem hearing the caller from the speaker, and the other end never complained about background noise. All in all, the phone performs very well as a phone. Is it really an upgrade from the M7 though? Depends. If you really have to get the latest and greatest, upgrade to the M8. You can always get the M7 for a little cheaper, and in my opinion, the M7 looks a little better than the M8, but the camera on the all-new one is definitely something that cannot go unnoticed and is definitely an improvement over its predecessor. The extra 2 hours of battery life are also worth it in my opinion, and if you need that expandable storage, go with the M8. Personally, I'm sticking with the M7. This update just looks to be incremental, especially with HTC keeping the same 4-megapixel ultra-pixel camera on the back of the device. Now, I'm not saying the phone is not going to sell well, it most definitely is the phone to beat in 2014, but if you're looking to save a little cash or looking to get a more than capable device, the older HTC One works just fine. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of the all-new HTC One. Do you think it's worth an upgrade from the M7? Now, if you like this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button down below, and if you feel that something is missing from this video or there's something I can improve upon, let me know down below in the comments. And if you'd like to see more Tech2 Media videos as soon as they come out, go ahead and subscribe and even follow me on Twitter at Tech2 Media. This has been Carl here, and I will catch you later. Peace.